the committee was formed, I was given the tour of putting together the family history because so many of us did not know much about how we got here, our ancestors. So I went on a journey of investigation, and I had a lot of moments, and I'm going to share those with you. And I debated for a long time how to do this, how to share this. So I finally decided that we should go back in time. Henry was 6 years old when he came to the United States. He was John's father, and we are celebrating John and Catherine Sandschafer. So Henry was John's father. So I decided that we should go back 160-some years and have Henry write you a letter. So Henry is going to talk to you through a letter. So here is Henry's letter. Guten Tag, or greetings, family members and descendants of John and Catherine Sandschafer. I thought about writing this letter in my native language, German, but I was afraid you modern Sandschafers would not understand me. If I was reading this myself to you, you would hear my German accent. I only began to learn English as we began our immigration to America. My name is Bernard Henry, or Henry Bernard, or just call me Henry. Today you are gathered as descendants and family members of John and Catherine Sandschafer. I am John's father, and I have been invited to tell you about the Sandschafer heritage. Again, my name is Bernard Henry Sandschafer. You heard that right. My last name is Sandschafer. Again, my son's name is John, and his last name is Sandschafer. You got a fancy American version of my last name. As I tell you about your ancestors, you will discover that we like to use our names as combinations of John, Henry, Bernard, and occasionally throw in an Antone. And that it also took us a while to decide on a last American name. So let me begin the Sandschafer story. I was born in Sandschafer, Westphalia, Prussia. And you have thought your ancestors came from Germany. At the time they came from Prussia. Prussia is now a part of Germany, but at that time it was its own country. My dad was John Bernard Sandschafer. One of the spellings is Schaeper. His German name was Johannes Bernard Sandschafer. My mother was Maria Margarita Vascular. Even though her first name was Maria, she went by Margaret. You will discover that we early Sandschafers rarely used their first name. If you go out of the Bishop Cemetery, you will see that my parents' tombstone reads Sandschafer. I think it was because Catherine replaced the tombstones. She decided we needed a fancy American name on those tombstones. My tombstone still says Sandschafer. At the time of our immigration, the ruling class of Persia was in direct conflict with the Catholic Church. The ruling class was suppressing opportunities for their subjects. I believe because of these two issues, my parents saw opportunities here in America. Even though we immigrated in 1846, our story begins a few years earlier. My uncle, Henry Bernard Siegmund, left his family behind and boarded a ship called the Copernicus for America. He arrived in Baltimore in September 14, 1843. He then traveled to Cincinnati before coming to Bishop. Many of the settlers in this area came through Cincinnati. My parents began their immigration to the United States in the fall of 1846. We packed what we could bring with us in 4 boxes and departed our homeland forever. Boxes are what the shippers now call our storage containers. One of those containers is the truck sitting over here at the side. I was about 7 at this time, and this seemed like an adventure to me. I had a 9-year-old sister, Elizabeth Margarita. She went by Elizabeth. I had a 3-year-old sister, Anne Marie Therese. She went by Teresa. With us was my baby brother, Anton Wilhelm, who had been born January 1st. He was a New Year's baby of that year. And my paternal grandmother, Anne Marie Margarita. And we were going to join my Uncle Henry Bernard. With us was his wife, my aunt, Anne Marie Sandschafer Reunion, and his 2 children, Bernard, age 15, and Gertrude, age 18. My cousins Bernard and Gertrude were very excited about seeing their dad in America. Oh, by the way, my uncle usually went by the name of Bernard instead of John Bernard, or Henry Bernard, right? Okay, our trip began with a 60-mile journey overland to the port of Bremen, Prussia. We boarded a ship called the Eliza Thornton. It is referred to as Mark Eliza Thornton. Mark means a ship with large sails. And indeed they were huge. There is going to be a picture of the ship posted here a little later for you to see the sails for yourself. These sails carried us down the river Weiser to the North Sea. Then we traveled south until we reached the Atlantic Ocean. We voyaged across the Atlantic Ocean into the Gulf of Mexico. My sisters, of course, complained about rolling high seas. Well, the seas indeed were very rough, but I did not complain. The accommodations were not good on board the ships. I am not sure, but these accommodations may have been reason that 4 of the 182 passengers on board died. And one of those 4 that died was my baby brother, Anton Wilhelm. I will always remember it was in November when my parents buried him at sea. It was a sad time for my family. It was 13 weeks after our journey started before we finally arrived in the port of New Orleans. Our day of arrival was December 19, 1846. The ship's manifest, the official list of passengers, has our last name as Sandschafer. And it lists my aunt and cousins as members of our family. Their last name was listed as Sandschafer, even though their last name was Heitman, because they were listed under my dad's name. The manifest also notes my brother's death. I think the gentleman recording our names could either not understand my dad or could not spell. In New Orleans, we secured passage up the Mississippi to St. Louis. We found that we had to remain in St. Louis for 3 months. My grandmother was not well. On January 24, 1847, my beloved grandmother died. Our family sought refuge at the St. Joseph Catholic Church just off the Mississippi River in St. Louis. The church recorded my grandmother's passing. She is buried in an immigrant's grave somewhere in St. Louis. I do not know her family's final resting place. Another very sad time for our family. Leaving St. Louis, we went overland by oxen to Effingham, Illinois, and then on to Bishop Settlement in the Wabash Township. My dad was able to secure home place, just 2 miles west of here. Sue Sandschafer now lives there. The name on the land grant was Bernard Sandschafer. Dad used his middle name instead of John or Johann, but I have no idea how this version of her last name occurred. Many of Bishop's early families arrived in 1846 and 1847, so we were one of the very first families to settle the Bishop area. Bishop is celebrating his 150th centennial. I arrived 168 years ago this year. So when he came here, there was no church, and there was not even a cemetery. Our family had to travel to the new town of Chautauqua to worship. My dad and Uncle Bernard worked with other early Bishop settlers to establish a church and a school here. Work on the school started in 1852 because our parents saw the value of education and worked with other settlers to make this possible. My dad never learned to read or write. He signed his final will and testament with an S. He did not get a church until 1865. The homestead has some tillable land and some really rough ground. The family in later years used the rough ground to run the dairy herd. But during the early years, we had to endure the hardships and inconvenience of pioneer life. A few years after we were at the home place, my brother Bernard was born. He was our only American-born sibling. So let me tell you a few things about my sibling. My sister Elizabeth married Antone Refuge. She has 7 children who died in early childhood. 6 of her children lived to adulthood. My sister Teresa married Bernhard Barney Eckler. His first child died at birth. Then she had 11 more children. I'm only telling this to you so that you know you're related to a lot of Refugees and Ecklers in the Bishop area. At the age of 21, my brother Bernard married Gertie Westendorf. 2 years later, in January, he died. And his infant son died in August of that year at 9 months of age. His widow remarried a year after his death. Back then, women remarried quickly because they had no means of support. She married Reinhard Refuge. She had 2 daughters, who both died shortly after birth, and Bernadine also died shortly after the death of her second daughter. Now let me tell you about me. In 1866, I married